Some pages there courtesy of Brian Martin and Night Owl BBS, available at nightowlbbs.ddns.net on port 6400. Alternatively, web portals also available. However, at the moment, at time of streaming, only the latter one, the fish.ccl4.org, appears to be working. Not sure what's happening with VDView at the moment, but it appears that the site is down. So do go and have a look at Night Owl. It should be online and streaming right now. Good evening, everybody. How are you doing? A very warm welcome. The time has just gone 20:01 hours GMT +1 or BST British Summer Time. You're with youtube.com/Wi-Fi Sheep live. I will just point out that creaking sound just as I started talking was not me. It was a door over there because I've got a window open. And just as I started speaking, creaking sounds that weren't even his chair started happening. Anyway, hello everybody. Good evening and a very warm welcome to 8 Till Late from youtube.com/Wi-Fi Sheep with me, Tom. Apologies for not being with you last week. Basically wasn't very well. Just had a cold. So I wasn't bedridden or anything, but I had a cold, and yeah, I think it would have been a bit difficult to have kept up any sort of pace or sense of atmosphere trying to do the live stream. So apologies for kind of calling it at the last minute, but hey, these things happen. Also, I've managed to get myself a cup of tea before we gone on air, so I'm happy right now. Hope you're all right as well. Welcome to the spring and the beginning of British summertime. Great for daylight, bad for international broadcasting. So if you're outside of the UK and not currently on GMT time, then obviously we're coming to you an hour earlier. For everyone else, hello, it's 8 o'clock. How are you doing? So that has been messing with my head. Or I've been trying to work out, like, no, hang on, we're going forward an hour. So it's, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Oh dear. Anyway, hope you're well. A few things I want to talk about. I've actually had another BBC Micro care package sent to me. This one courtesy of Brian Martin of the Night Owl BBS, and I'm going to come to that in the second part of tonight's live stream. I hope to be with you two around about 10 o'clock. We'll see how we go for time. This thing I want to talk about in the first hour, if you like, or first part of the live stream. But before we go any further, because I always forget to do this, let's just say huge thank you, as we always do, to our Patreon and YouTube channel members. There they all are on the screen right now. Huge thank you to each and every one of them that continues to support me and Wi-Fi Sheep and make things like this live stream possible. If you want to join them, you can. You know the score by now. It's patreon.com/Wi-Fi Sheep. Or alternatively, if you want to stay right here on YouTube, excuse me, my voice is breaking up already. If you want to stay right here on YouTube, you can click the join button and become a YouTube channel member. Base support starts from £0.99 all the way up to £2.99. That's British pound sterling, which will be converted into your local currency. If you are outside the UK, if it can't be, you'll see it in US dollars. Unless you're actually in the US, then you'll see it in US dollars anyway. But you know what I mean. You get the idea. So once again, huge thanks to everybody that continues to support me here on Wi-Fi Sheep. Right, so yeah, I'm trying to think, where should we start? Actually, do you know what? I want to start with a little bit of news first, if I may. So this cropped up the other day. Let me just... There we go. Okay. That's not sized particularly well. Hang on. You know what? It's good enough for what you need. So, yeah. So an announcement came out from RiskOS Open Limited. Now, this is the holdings company that maintains the RiskOS Acorn ARM operating system that runs on the Raspberry Pi. And those of you that have been long-term followers of the channel will know that I did a big deal with RiskOS Developments, which is the rights holding company. There's two companies, so bear with me. So RiskOS Developments owns RiskOS. RiskOS Open Limited maintains RiskOS. It's confusing, but just bear with me. So you might remember that I did a series called RiskOS Direct, which you can still find here on the channel, and actually did or was part of a team that developed an offshoot operating system for Raspberry Pi called RiskOS Direct. The story behind that, very quickly, in case you don't know, is RiskOS Direct was a rebrand of an offshoot of this operating system, RiskOS Open, which I rebranded. Originally it was iDent Computer RiskOS, and then it changed to Wi-Fi Sheep RiskOS and went free. It's the Wi-Fi Sheep builder RiskOS that was tied to this YouTube channel that then got rebranded into what became RiskOS Direct. Right, so that's right. It's a confusing story, but that's where we're up to. I'm no longer affiliated or working with any of the entities currently in the RiskOS market, so I'm outside of all that now. So this came up the other day, which is an initiative from RiskOS Open. That's the maintenance company who want to. It looks like here you can see it's called Moonshot. Basically, it's a drive to try and modernise RiskOS, which is something I have been saying for the last. It could well be even 10 years. It probably is 10 years now. It's scary, thereabouts. Basically, they want to modernise the operating system to make it 64-bit compatible so it will run on the next generation of ARM single-board computers. Basically, the problem is the native raw RiskOS Pi image doesn't work on the Pi 5 and is unlikely to ever work on the Pi 5 because RiskOS is locked into ARM assembler code that only works on 32-bit processors. So the OS can't run in a 64-bit mode. That said, there has been some initiatives such as emulator layers, QEMU, or QEMU, or I forget how you pronounce it, layer that allowed it to run on 64-bit architecture. And you might remember I've shown it running on alternatives to ARM. So I had it running under the RPC EMU emulator, and I've had that running on all sorts of things from x86 right through till 64-bit ARM and even 64-bit RISC-V or RISC-V chipsets. So anyway, so this new initiative is called Moonshot. I'm in no way associated with it, and I suppose I'm giving it some free publicity, although I'm not convinced with it, to be honest with you. But this is the sum of it. So basically, they want to bring in professional outsiders to, programmers, engineers, etc., to completely rework how the operating system works, and to sort of make it compatible with what it says here, compatible with ARM, 64-bit ARM platforms, and future hardware support. And obviously they're now talking about funding partners, individuals, companies. The last time they did anything, and don't quote me on this because I'm paraphrasing and misquoting, but I think they said something like, they wanted £1 million to do the work. It's like, no, you just want £1 million so you can retire. So I don't think it would cost £1 million. That's stupid, really. But plus the fact you'd still, even if you got an operating system, a RiskOS, to run in a 64-bit environment, a lot of software is so old, and a lot of it is barely out the 26-bit Archimedes era, that you'd have to run some sort of soft emulator layer inside the OS to still support the bulk of the 32-bit software. Yeah, so I don't know about that one. I've got to be honest with you. Something needs to happen, but there's already this. I'm going to find it. Just bear with me. That's the wrong keyboard. There's all this RiskOS. I can find it. RiskOS Linux. RiskOS on Linux. Is that it? It's a forum release. I did find it the other day. There was a GitHub for something called, this is the forum release, so this isn't right, but no, there was something called RiskOS on Linux, and it is on a GitHub. Just bear with me a minute. Let's just try. I can't have two keyboards in front of me. I keep typing on the wrong one. GitHub. No, we don't want Cloverleaf. RiskOS Linux. That's it. That might be it. Linux port of RiskOS. Yeah, okay. So, I mean, this isn't anything new, but this does allow the current 32-bit system to run on the 64-bit, but it has a Linux kernel, if you like, and the thing just runs on top like a shell layer, effectively. The only issue is, and this is another issue of RiskOS that kind of annoys me, is you can't build RiskOS from source, which you need to do in order to make this work. So although RiskOS claims to be open source, and you can get the source code for free, you can't compile the source code because it has a bespoke compiler, which is gate kept and is on by RiskOS Open Limited. And basically you can't compile anything without the compiler, which isn't free. So, that kind of griped me a bit. So it's like, right, so you can't then do this because you can't compile RiskOS in the first place. And it's not the case of just dropping in a pre-compiled ROM, sadly. So, yeah, I kind of, this uses, is it QEMU? You get the gist. Anyway. So, I mean, it's interesting, but I'm personally not prepared to pay for a compiler to do this yet. So, if someone has a sort of drop and drag and drop way of doing this, other than the RPCEMU emulator way that we've already done, then that would work. But yeah, I'm not. How can I split this? We'll see. We'll see. I mean, it's good someone's now finally thinking about something to make this work. If there's much of a software or user base left to make it worthwhile, is another matter. Anyway, I'll have a gripe in a moan about that. Do you want the links to this, by the way, if anyone is interested? I suppose I better drop the link somewhere. Let's do that and be useful for once. Okay, so let's try that. There we go. So that's the GitHub I'm just looking at on screen now. And if you want to read the Moonshot article yourself, I'll drop that in the chat now as well. There we go. So yeah, it's interesting, but right. Let's have a quick look in the. Sorry, I've gone quiet because I was just reading the chat. So we'll say hello to who have we got? The Imp67. We've got Brian Martin. Of course, we've got Brian. Me and Brian had a chat last night on Night Owl on the. There's a direct messaging thing that the administrator, which of course is Brian, can actually chat to anyone who's actually logged in. So I was logged in, minding my own business, and then Brian interrupted my viewing of teletext images to chat to me, which I don't mind. Makes it sound like I mind. I don't mind, but yeah. Keop, try again. Hello, Andrew D. 7 a.m. for me in New Zealand. 1 hour has just gone back. All right, okay, yeah, but you're going into... Yeah, did someone say you're going into it? Heading into... Yeah, Brian, heading towards winter, yes. And Martin there says, hi, everyone. Hello, Martin, how are you? Okay, I think we're up to speed on that. So yeah, just interesting news with RISC-OS, and I do actually have a RISC-OS project. I have mentioned this before. So basically, I'm now off for a week and a bit from work. So after tomorrow, we've got to do some yard work stuff outside, and then I've got the week. And what I'm going to do the week is I've got a video project which I have started shooting, which I do want to finish shooting, which is part of my Rotten Acorns series. Now, because basically, those of you that were with me a couple of weeks back will know that I came on in a state of shock because I said, about a few hours prior to me starting streaming, I just bought a house, as you do. How I got through that, I don't know. But yeah, so basically a lot of things over the summer in my world might be about to be turned upside down. So I'm very keen to get my current project, or at least one of my main current projects, which is my Rotten Acorns series project, ready for 2 outings which are coming up. And I've got the show dates for you here. I forgot to do this earlier. So the National Museum of Computing, the Econet LAN party, is Saturday the 7th, Sunday the 8th of June 2025, National Museum of Computing, Bletchley Park, Milton Keynes. I'm going to be there both days, and I'm hoping to bring, I should be bringing at least 2 BBC Master 128s that you've seen here on the channel. You're going to see one of them in a bit as well. And I'm also planning on bringing this other project unit, which I want to start working on and do a whole video on over the week to get it basically finished. And then in November, I will be at Cambridge Retro Computer Festival. That's Saturday the 15th, Sunday the 16th of November. Centre for Computing History, Cambridge. And subject to change. I do need to put the websites up for that. But they're now both live. And I think tickets are live for both, I think. Actually, I'm not sure about Cambridge, but they will be live shortly. So. And obviously you can follow me across most social medias at Wi-Fi Sheep. If you do a search, you should find me on what I'm now calling the Twitter sphere sites. So Blue Sky, Mastodon, Facebook, X and Instagram. A search of at Wi-Fi Sheep should find my profiles or presence on those platforms. And of course, as you are currently with me, youtube.com/wifi-sheep.co.uk or youtube.com/Wi-Fi Sheep also works. Yeah, so I saw someone on the Acorn selling sales group on Facebook earlier this afternoon. Basically was trying to flog an Acorn A7000 and an Acorn RISC PC, and both of which are then basically deteriorated because the batteries which are soldered onto motherboards leak and they destroy the boards, which means they aren't actually an awful lot of RISC PCs. Acorn, these are some of the last British made Acorn computer products. And when I say PC, these were native Acorn ARM desktops. They weren't x86 clones. So there aren't an awful lot of them left. I had one which had battery damage. I took the battery out, but it's clearly continued to deteriorate despite the fact I've done work to try and rectify that. And it's now stopped working. And then we had another one, which you might remember the video I did, which just about 2 years ago now. But yeah, two and a bit years ago, was donated. And it had been outside, it had been in a skip, it was soaked, it had rusted, the battery had gone. And then I think the chap, before he gave it to me, decided to turn it on to see did it work. And of course it was full of soil and water, and of course it just blew everything sky high. So when we got it, it was in a hell of a state. Which basically means that I've got, at the moment, 2 or 3 Acorn RISC PC cases with the innards completely unusable and potentially unrepairable. It's my plan, using modern components, to try and rebuild a RISC PC with new innards that can still natively run RISC-OS and hopefully can still use the original Acorn RISC PC A7000 keyboard and possibly, maybe not the original mouse, but possibly a PS2 compatible mouse. And so you still have the sort of the authentic RISC PC user experience, but it's all new stuff inside. It isn't going to break. Plus that you could run a lot more memory and power, processing power speed, and also a lot more RAM. So you could have higher resolution graphics modes, things like that. So that's the project, but it all would look like and sound like a real RISC PC, because effectively it would be the case of one, and it's just a fact of putting a new board in. So yeah, that's kind of the project that will be coming up. I'm going to do it this coming week, because I need to get it done, because I'm not going to have time over the summer if I'm potentially moving house. Right, so while I was unwell the end of last week, and again, apologies for that, I did actually do some coding. Let me show you on the desk. Right, so I had to go, I went back to my, I'll start again. This is the problem when you're live streaming and you're kind of a little bit ahead of yourself, and you start twisting words up, which I seem to be doing more and more now, which is concerning. Okay, so on the bench right now is basically the Project Rio system. So for those of you that don't know, I have an own build computer project, or two own build computer projects here on the channel. It started as Tiny Basic Computers, and there's a whole series. If you just search on the YouTube channel on Wi-Fi Sheep, or youtube.com/Wi-Fi Sheep, I've got playlists. There's one called Tiny Basic Computers, and there's one called Project Rio. Project Rio was a more powerful colour version of the Tiny Basic Computers project, and it uses a Arduino microcontroller as the base architecture, so AVR 8-bit architecture, and basically it creates a self-contained programmable computer. The Raspberry Pis on the Project Rio boards are purely here to act as dumb video terminals. So they don't run Linux, they run a bare metal terminal program called PyGFX, which is free, and you just load that onto the SD card. There's no Linux, so it boots up instantly, it can shut down instantly, it's not having to run a Debian or anything like that. And basically the Arduino here runs the show. So this is a Mega 2560. We originally started with 328Ps, which were on things like the Nanos. We started with Nanos originally, but we've upgraded because we only had 2K of RAM, 1K available to basic on one of these. These are 8K boards with at least 6K available to basic, and that means that we can run things like color commands, have a higher or larger basic instruction set, and we can also have things like SD card filing system. This is what we've been doing, and we've got a Facebook group which you can also join. And for those of you that are on the Project Rio tier on Patreon, patreon.com/Wi-Fi Sheep, I've been giving the instructions and also the source code for how to build this. So some of you have actually built this system. It also has the ability to plug in, and this is an Atari, I just moved off camera, but a clone Atari 2600 style joystick, or the basis we know as the DB9 standard, and it plugs in. So DB9 serial type connector plugs in like here. This interfaces directly into the digital pin bus on the Arduino, and that actually gives us joystick control over some programs or applications. Anyway, right, that's the rundown of the system. Now the version, basically I hadn't done any kernel work on the system since 2023, I think it was. So if we go to capture, let's just boot up. So I thought last week, let's do something remotely useful. And I thought I'll have a go at sort of tweaking some stuff that I knew was broken and didn't work. So I'm just going to turn on the system. So it's just 5 volts through Raspberry Pi. There we go. So you'll now see the copyright is now updated to 2025. This is now build 573, which is not available as yet. So it's still 571, I think, is the last version currently at time of streaming to you right now on the Patreon site, but I will update shortly. Now, one thing that has never worked ever since we had SD card filing systems running on this One thing that never ever worked was the ability to view the contents of the SD card. So to do that, now this will change, but for now it's the stock statement of saying files. When you used to do files before, you just got garbage on the screen. It reset a few times, cleared the screen and just printed garbage. Now, if I go files, it actually gives me a list of the files on the system and also in bytes the file size. Finally. Not quite. Some of these files seem to be sort of hidden files or copies and clones of things that are just part of the FAT filing infrastructure, because it just sees and prints everything. But for example, we've got Rio there halfway up at 525 bytes. So if I can now just change straight into Rio. You may remember I showed you this before. So this is the current build of Rio Shell, which is the graphical user, well, the attempted graphical user interface for the Project Rio system. I will warn you here, as it says here, I will warn you, this is very, very fast and flickery. I need to fix this. So we're going to have a look at it, but I warn you, if you are photoepileptic, you might want to look away just for a moment. You'll also notice here that we actually now have multiple resolutions. So this has dropped into a lower screen resolution, about 320 by... I can't remember what it's by, but it's a lower resolution as opposed to 640 by 480, which is the higher resolution that this thing automatically boots in. So it will go yes. I wish to continue. So 1. Back now jumps back to 640 by 480. And this is currently the sort of the system menu for the graphical user interface. Now I've got my joystick, this Atari joystick. Now warning, this is flickery, but I can now move the cursor around and I can press fire to click and it brings up windowing and dialogues. So that's the last build of this, which was August 2024 was the last build. So I haven't touched this for a while, unfortunately. The kernel, you see it has updated the kernel, so it knows what kernel version it's running. So this is running on kernel version 5.7.3. The main purpose for this at the moment, obviously, is testing and diagnostics tools. So you have ability to actually check that the joystick is functioning correct, which it is. And now we can hit Q on the keyboard to come back. Key test, which will then give you the keyboard or ASCII value by pressing keys, which is useful, especially if you want to do in-key statements in BASIC. So again, it's not perfect, so it doesn't wipe the input out, but you can see it does work. I need to double tap escape, and that's actually brought us straight out of the Rio shell. So if I hit the fire button, that'll take us back to the desktop. Color test, you've seen 1,000,001 times already, but I'll just show you it again. So that's basically all the 256 colors that is available through PyGFX that this thing can actually use. There you all are, and there are the corresponding numbers that you would call if you wanted to use them. And again, apologies for the flicker. And then of course demo reel is just, I think it's just the lines program. But yeah. And you can escape out of that. CLS obviously works. You can list. So Rio shell is just a series of basic files put together, so that works fine. But the main thing is, I don't know, it seems like trivial, but I'm actually quite happy that I've managed to get the filing system to actually work so we can actually see the files on the SD card, because it was a pain to have all the files saved on the SD card, not being able to remember what the file names exactly were or what was on the card, and then having to take it out, look at it on a PC or a Mac or whatever can read a fat filing system to actually figure out what's what before we come back. So I was like, right. So yeah, so that's better. So this will be updated shortly. I am hoping at some point we'll be getting on with some development work. I think I showed you some development work a while ago about the different AVR 8-bit chipsets I'm hoping to use. I do have, just think, what have I done with it? So I have one of these off-the-shelf development boards for the 40-pin DIP package AVR industrial microcontrollers. And I'm probably going to use, it's actually only a little bit bigger than the Mega, but I'm going to use that as the base for building a new prototype. Because the current prototype's a bit iffy and I don't particularly want to use it. This is better. This is the one that we're suggesting that, well, we as in me and me only, suggesting that Patreon backers build, and I'll continue to support the 2560 even as we go forward with the two new chips, which are the 1284, I think it is, the 16K 1284 DIP package chip, and there's another one which I think is the 644, which is a 4K DIP package chip. So it's exactly the same size package, but there's a difference between a 4K chip and a 16K chip. Now the 4K chip will run the kernel and will obviously run all the color commands, will still work, but it won't. It'll only have about 2K of RAM for basic, so it'll be twice the capacity of what you get on a Atmega 328p, but that won't be enough to run RioShell. So RioShell won't be supported, but it'll be a sort of lower cost version, if you like, of the kit. Then the higher cost version of the kit will have the, as I said, the 16K 1284 AVR chip, which is again a 16K of RAM, which should give basic 14K to basic, and that will obviously support RioShell and any sort of future development on the GUI and GUI based applications, as will at the moment those building with the 2560, which is this board here, with 8K of RAM at 6K to basic, which is enough currently to run GeoShell. So that's currently on Patreon, by the way. It's on there's a Project Rio tier which you have to join. If you want to do Tiny Basics, that's under general downloads. There's a little bit more money for Project Rio tier, and that's where I'll do the update very shortly, once I've made sure that I haven't done anything particularly stupid that's going to break anything. Because whenever you make a change, especially if you're running a basic interpreter or a software kernel, you make one change to fix something and it tends to break something else, which is highly frustrating. But yeah, so that'll all be over on Patreon, or patreon.com/Wi-Fi sheep. Now, all this came about because I tried, the first thing I was going to try, is I wasn't going to do Project Rio stuff. The first thing I was going to try was to try and get this sorted. So let's carefully just manoeuvre that out of the way. I know you're all waiting for the BBC Micro stuff. We'll get there, promise. So yeah, basically I was trying to get this Olimex board. This is the ESP single board computer with FabGL, and you might remember this from a little while ago, and I could not, for the effing life of me, get this thing to boot the PC emulator. It's sold as being compatible with the FabGL open source libraries for ESP32. The form factor, it's actually very good. I mean, it blurs the line between what's a microcontroller and what's a single board computer. So you've got PS2 mouse and keyboard, you've got audio, and you've got VGA, SD card support or micro SD card support, and USB-C, and then you've got various pinouts. But for the PC emulators to work, they need to boot things like a DOS and a Windows from an SD card, and this was just having absolutely none of it at all. It just couldn't see the SD card, despite the fact the SD card, and I think I've got it, I think it's one of these, just bear with me. Yes, it is. So the SD card came from one of these, which is TT Go. Yes, TT Go, which is basically the same design form factor as the Olimex board, but it's compressed. But it's exactly the same, effectively. And I was using the SD card, or the micro SD card with one of these, which I have here. And, you know, it worked absolutely fine. So you load the same files on here, even the patched version that Olimex offer. I did that, put the card in, absolutely no luck, just would not see the SD card. So, because I was getting rather frustrated, I thought I need to try and find some pinout on this that's actually available, because a lot of the pinout is tied up, so you don't have as much full access to the GPIO as you would do on a stock ESP32. So here on the external LCD communication pin connector, I'll show you that here. See where it says LCD? I actually was able to find the correct pins, or allocate pins, to actually put another SD card on. Get SD card reader. So I basically hardwired this in. I then used a modified version of Tiny Basic, very similar source code. It's not my version of Project Rio Tiny Basic 4. It's Tiny Basic 4 Color for ESP32, but there's another one from the FabGL library, which I just happen to have a source file of. So I tried using that basic interpreter, and I assigned it to look at the pins to look for this SD card. And then I tried it with the SD card out of this rig, and the bloody thing saw it, and it was fine. But the problem is that, so basically it means that it couldn't see it when I allocated it to here. So this here to here is broken, and it's very difficult to pin it out. I have tried pinning it out. I've looked at the schematics. I can only assume this board is defective, and I've not been over the moon with Olimex products, to be honest with you. So I think this board is just defective, because this worked. But the problem is that some of the serial used here is also shared with the VGA, which meant there was no VGA video out. So you could either have an external working micro SD card, which the PC emulators need, or you could have a VGA video out. So I kind of got absolutely nowhere with that. But it was during that development I noticed that the files system, when you type files in BASIC, it worked. It didn't do the sort of stupid thing it was doing on my rig. Hence why I then started investigating that, and hence how we got to this, and actually fixing, for the first time on my build, the files system. So it actually now displays the files instead of virtually crashing or nearly throwing the terminal out of sync. So that's kind of how we got there. So I suppose it's a little bit of a win, but it's just really, really frustrating. I mean, these boards aren't horrendously expensive. They're about £20. So it would be possible to buy another one. But I would like one in this form factor that works, because I want to embed it in a PC case. As another project, and it's just extremely frustrating, and I have really been trying to get this board working, and yeah, it's just really, really, really frustrating. So that's the Olimex situation. So I don't know what I'm going to do with this board. I mean, some stuff, it doesn't the SD card, it's fine, it works. A lot of the other FabGL libraries work fine. It's just this one that is just so frustrating. I'm just trying to think now. Did I see? I did think I did see the. Let's have a look. Yes. So just off camera here, I've got the adapter for adapting VGA to HDMI. So that goes in like that. I've just thought, could I have a go at just booting one of these up. So that needs some power. And I'm trying to think, have I got an adapter for a PS2 keyboard? Because I didn't plan this ahead of time. I've got one that's the wrong way round. Yeah, I've got one that's the wrong way around. I've got PS2 keyboards over the other side of the room, which I could grab if necessary. Let's just power this up for a minute and just see what it does. So this is just a TTL or TT Go board. You've seen me show these on the channel before. But let's just unplug that. And let's take this cable, which is the input for the video card, so you can see what's going on. And pop that in there. So we'll power up from here. And what's at home? Yeah, okay. So this is the PC emulator, and this is what I get on the Onimex board if, well, with or without the SD card in, it doesn't matter, it just doesn't see it. Okay, fine, that's what to be expected. So if I now put the SD card in, and I really hate these because the way the SD card just sticks out very vulnerably on the side of the board, but let's just pop that in. And could I get away with just using, just having a think, can I just use a mouse? I do have Acer PS2 mouse. We might be able to get away with just using a mouse. So let's just plug mouse in. There we go. Okay. Just budge that out of the way. Okay, right. Let's power back up. Yeah. And it finds your SD card. These things now run further and get further along than the Onimex board does, and there we are. And you can actually, there's a host of different operating systems. I have shown this before, so you've got things like MS-DOS. There's even a build of Linux. We've got CPM here. Again, I remind you, this is all off an ESP32 microcontroller. So we've got DOS and games, DOS and tools, FreeDOS. There's Windows Free, there's GEOS, and there's Gem. So if we just run Gem. Yeah, I'm not quite sure it's happy with. It's not quite happy with something, but I don't quite know what's happened there. It might be the capture card, but you can see it does actually run Gem. It should be running in the Hercules graphics mode, but we seem to be sort of be missing half the screen. But yeah, you can see the Gem is actually very similar to what we're using on the BBC microsets. Gem 2, you might remember. A couple of weeks ago, actually a few months ago now, we're getting Gem to boot on the BBC Master 128 to make it into a BBC Master 512 using a Pi coprocessor. Let's exit the DOS. So I don't quite know why that's done that. Might be it doesn't like the capture card. Okay, let's just paracycle that. Basically, it defaults to, it can do CGA mode. Can't do anything else other than CGA. But it also does the higher resolution Hercules graphics mode. So this bit's fine. Let's try Windows. Yes, I think we're slightly skewy again, unfortunately. Yeah, I think that's going to be problematic. It might be the capture card, you know. And I think this emulates an original 8086. So it doesn't do any advanced program protection modes or anything like that. Yeah, obviously I'm missing half me. There's something on a bit skewy, but I think it may be the capture card. It's skewed a little because it's doing this exactly on my VGA output monitor, exactly as you're seeing it. Is how I'm seeing it. Yes, let's not go full screen because I can't see all the screen. Oh, it's laggy. It's impressive that a microcontroller can even do this, but it would have been nice to have had this running on, you know, on this board. So let's I don't think we'll break. I don't think we'll break anything if we just do another power cycle. While we're here, I'll just show you the GEOS. So you might remember very recently, well actually, I'll say very recently, it's a few months ago now, we did the Going GUI series, and we actually looked at the C64 original version GEOS. Well, this has the x86 PC version, which again probably won't load properly, but we'll give it a shot. Because I don't think it's liking the Hercules mode. It's when you get purple line of death down the side of the screen, you think that's not going to work. Same thing, but this is Geo Manager, so this was an alternative. So this is what Geo looked like running on the x86. It's not compatible with any of the, as far as I'm aware, someone will correct me, but it's not compatible with any of the C64 version software, but this was Geo Manager. And you can see how very Windowsy it looks. Who copied who? I have a feeling this copied Windows, to be honest with you. I would just say hello to George there in the chat. Good evening, George. Thanks for joining us. Yeah, so, I mean, it's all there. I've not played around with this one too much, actually, but it would be nice to have basically this running inside a PC case or PC shell, if you know what I mean. That would be my sort of thinking. It's probably going to run horribly slowly, if at all. painfully slowly. But yeah, usable rather. With a sort of time frame, I'm guessing, and for running as a 16-bit operating system. Yeah, so anyway, I think what we'll do is, while we've got a little bit of time, is let's just power that one down. I do have another one on here, which these are relatively cheap, so I'm just going to take the card out because I've just, not that it needs the card, but just because I don't want to snap anything. Let's put that into this one and we'll just do another quick swap over. Okay, so we power this one up. So that was PC emulation. This, if I remember correctly, let's just check this one. Again, it's another FabGL library. It's also PC emulation. Right, so they've both got the same thing on. Why have I got... But do you know what? Right, okay, never mind. So one of them was set up for VIC-20 emulation, which was another project I had planned that I never got around to. So you might remember one of the most popular videos I ever did here was when I dismantled a C64 Mini and built it into an unofficial C64 Maxi. If you're not familiar with that, do go look at that video. It's a few years ago now, but still one on the pop list on the channel. It was actually done before the official C64 came out. But what I always had was the original Mini, and I still got it. I think it's in its box up there. The original C64 Mini, the case, but there's nothing in it. Oh, excuse me. I always get like this when I've rushed tea, drinking my tea. But it's basically there's nothing in it. So I did think, wouldn't it be nice to put another, board back into it to make it back into a Commodore machine? And originally I was experimenting with, you might remember a video I did two-part video on getting, someone had a C64 kernel that ran on an Atmega 328P AVR microcontroller, but it ran like an absolute dog and it was barely usable, to the point there was no point using it. It was that bad. And then the FabGL library came out, basically for one of these, and allowed you to run not the C64, admittedly, but a very good Commodore VIC-20 emulation without the Linux overhead. So unlike the C64 Maxi, the Commodore, FabGL libraries ran bare metal native on the microcontroller. There was no overhead operating system. That's the advantage with PC stuff you've just seen. There's a no overhead operating system. It runs, basically, the emulator runs bare metal against the microcontroller. And the ESP32 is a dual core 32-bit architecture microcontroller, so it's got some real power. Far more powerful than the AVR stuff we're using for Project Rio at the moment. But yeah, basically, this very, very good VIC-20 emulation. It outputted via VGA. And so I was sort of thinking about embedding one of those smaller boards into the unused empty C64 Mini case and building a Commodore VIC-20 Mini that I thought might be quite cool. So that was a project, the plan. There's been a plan for a few years and I've not got around to doing it yet, but that's why I have these boards. Now with the Olimex board, the one we've just been looking at, this one, I wanted to run the emulators that you've seen on these two because I wanted to put this board inside. I have a spare DigiPOS case. You might remember the x86 PC I've been working on. is DigiPRS from 1998. It's one of very late era machines that didn't still had serial, didn't use USB. And basically I had a spare case which I purchased, which was in nicer condition than the original case. So I've got this empty metal case, and I was sort of thinking about what am I going to do with that. It'd be nice to embed an emulated x86 board inside it and run, you know, what you've just seen, hopefully with better resolution than what you saw. And I think that was just the capture card stuffing up, in all honesty. So that was kind of the plan, but frustratingly I just cannot get this board to work, which is really, really annoying. So yeah, so that's kind of where we're at the moment. I'm trying to think, where have I got the VIC-20 libraries? I can't. Do you know what? I think they're probably, ironically, they might actually be on the Orange Pi machine here. He says, yeah. Just sorry, everyone. Just bear with me a moment. Do you know what? I should almost think about planning these live streams before we do them, because if I don't plan them, stuff like this happens. And you'll go, what is he doing now? We are getting to BBC Micro stuff, I promise you. We'll do that in the second hour. I'm just on a bit of a roll at the minute, so hang on a moment. So if we go Arduino IDE, the ARM build of Arduino IDE, which is on this one. Excuse me, I've still got the cough. I'm still a little bit congested from the cold, but I'm certainly nowhere near as bad as I was. And of course, it takes forever on the ARM builds. I wish they'd update the ARM build of Arduino IDE, because they haven't done it. So the ARM build is way behind the x86 build. Right, that was actually the last Project Rio source code I was working on. So if you go, we set the board to ESP something. ESP. Oh, hang on, I can't do this with the wrong hand. Right, ESP TTAlgo T1, which is what those were. And then we go to examples. We have to have the libraries installed, obviously. Then down the bottom you've got, keep going, FabGL. And FabGL has VGA, and then there's bottom here VIC-20 emulator, which is what I wanted to show you. So if we just, so let's take, let's use this one. So just take that out a moment. Find a cable. Look how chewed up this cable is getting, seriously. Find a suitable USB cable to plug this in. So that's plugged in like that. We'll put this into the end of the Orange Pi units. The Orange Pi, remember, was the 800, the Pi 400 clone, which I said at the time I thought was better. And I actually bought mine. It wasn't sponsored, so, and I've been doing my Tiny Basic Computers Project Rio development on it. And also, obviously, you probably know it runs the screen display for the live streams. So, right, we do that. And then we need to set up just a couple of things. Huge app. Board info, nothing there. Port number. There we go. That might work. Let's try uploading, and it'll take forever to compile and upload, I'm afraid. Right, there we are. So I'm just looking at the chat. So we'll say hello. Good evening to JB. Good day. I stopped by your live stream a bit back at Christmas time. That was a while ago. And the algorithms, hello, back to algorithms, decided to bring me back again this afternoon. Well, hello. Thanks for joining us once again then. It's no more organised than it was back then. I'm afraid to say. We're compiling away over there, so we might do an upload shortly. If that works. Yeah, one thing you don't do on live streams is don't compile code. Don't do uploads. Don't try and download files from slow cloud file servers whilst live. How many times have you just sat here and I'm going, this will only take half an hour to download, let's do something else in the meantime. I honestly thought this one of these still had the VIC-20 stuff on it, but lack of organisation is part of the charm. No, it's just incompetence, I'm afraid. I mean well. Yeah, you know that. These FabGL libraries are fantastic, by the way. If you get a chance to play with FabGL, they are fantastic, but they don't half take time to compile. Let me just bear with me a moment. That's the wrong keyboard again. Can't have two keyboards up. So let me just show you then. So there we go. So this is fabglib.org. Excuse me, I'll just reset that. There we go. Interestingly, if you remember the other Olimex board I've got, the Aegon Lite 2, excuse me, it uses the FabGL video library as its terminal. So it's not completely alien, but basically there's a few things it does. It has mouse, keyboard, video controllers, emulation classes, so it can emulate Z80, 8080, 6502. There's the PC mode. There's native Space Invaders mode. It has its own GUI interface, which can be programmed as well. It can call it all from the Arduino IDE library. You can use it as a terminal with other devices. Even does Altair running as well. So it is a really, really good library. And it has various compatibilities with terminals. So I have done tests with this myself. You might remember I've done a few tests to see about getting tiny basic computers to run with the FabGL library. As an alternative, if you wanted to use ESP32 as opposed to the full Raspberry Pi with Pi GFX. So it also has some like sound generator abilities and classes built into the library as well. So you download this, add it to your IDE. In this case, sorry, that's Ubuntu on the other system trying to update. So you've added it as a series of class, and it's in C mode, so C programming mode in Arduino IDE. Right, that's enough of that. So now we should be good. So let's try this one just to see what it does. So I've just plugged the mouse, and you can put a PS2 keyboard in as well. So let's just turn this on. Let's see what happens, if anything. There we go. Okay, so this is the VIC-20 mode, and these are all programs that are actually pre-installed and embedded into the ROM. So they're sort of clones as Tetris Clone, the the Arcanide closed, you just click Arcanide. It gives you options, things like the keyboard layouts. You can soft reset, hard reset, load, run, and you can actually set the expansion on the machine to have the option to expand the RAM. Joystick will go for mouse. If I double click, it will do sound. I haven't got the sound plugged in, but it does do sound. And this is a very playable version, especially if we're using the mouse as joystick. It's actually more playable than the BBC Micro version. I struggle with, in all honesty. So this is what I was thinking of embedding into my unused C64 Mini case. And having a little mini VIC-20, which is, yeah, it's impressive emulation, this. And again, as I said, you don't have the overhead of having to run a Linux operating system. There's no Linux shell on this. It's also impressive that this game is even capable, considering the VIC-20 doesn't have a sprite mode. So it has to do it with all with text-defined characters on a set grid. I don't even think it had a graphics mode, did it? I think it was all done with text-defined characters. Oh, I didn't realise I had those. That makes life a bit easier. Yeah, much easier to play than some of the other versions that I cannot for life of me play. Because I haven't got a keyboard attached to this, so there should be a reset button on this. Yes, there is. Just hit reset on the bottom of the microcontroller. There we go. If you have nothing, you can just run. So we'll go US English. Yeah, I'll do that. I think you can, if you can just run nothing, and it just goes and sits straight in at the prompt. Now, I haven't got a keyboard, so I can't type, but basically you can just use it like a VIC-20. And it has the full Microsoft / Commodore Basic, CBM Basic there. And yeah, so the only downside is that it's not that noticeable with what you're looking at, but there's an additional black border around the screen, so it doesn't go full screen. So it's not that noticeable because you've got a lot of black around. It doesn't really show up, but yeah, it's not full screen, which is slightly annoying. There's always this very thick black border around the screen, but other than that, yeah, it works really, really well. So that's probably a project I should do. Don't know if I'll do that this year. I've been planning on doing it for the past few years and I've just never done it. So, but I do highly recommend, if you get a chance, I do recommend these boards, these TT Go boards. Actually, I'm just wondering if I go back to, just bear with me. ESP32. There we are. Right. Now let's share with yourselves. Okay. So to give you an idea on the pricing on these, again, I'm not sponsored and I bought all this myself, but I found these really, really good. Oops, too far. So you've got, yeah, they're around the 10. If you go for AliExpress, you can find UK eBay ones at 36. The markup on them is huge, but if you order direct from China, I've used AliExpress, so I've never had a problem actually with AliExpress. Yeah, so that's £8.80 sterling. So what's that? About 15, 20. Well, I would say 15, 20 dollars US, but God knows with all the tariffs what's going on at the moment. So you probably need to add what? I don't know what it was, like 40% on top of that or something for a Chinese import. I don't know how that works. I'm not getting into the politics of it, but yeah, that I will say for Europe and the UK, £8.80. Oh, what's that against the euro? 10 euros, something like that. It's around that kind of ballpark. There's additional. There's nearly £3, so I'll say four euros of shipping. But still, very, very good value. And you can see what the boards, especially with the the FabGL library, very versatile and useful little devices. They do have this pinout here, which you can actually use for adding. There's some basic GPIO output, including voltage, and you can actually tap the TXRX RS232 serial. So if you want to plug this in and use it as a serial terminal, which I haven't done with these boards, but it would potentially work, you could do that with these. So, and they do seem to be a damn sight cheaper and also a damn sight more reliable than the Olimex boards at the moment. So, yeah, something to think about. And I've certainly enjoyed them. And yeah, they're quite good little boards. So, this one, as I said, just blooming disappointing. Right, well, that's me chatted for... I'll do tidy up in a minute. That's me chatted for the first hour. I think I need to do a bit of a reset because I need to talk about BBC Micros next. So let's have another cup of tea. I need about 10 minutes reset. So let's have a cup of tea. I'll just do a reset. And when we come back, I'm going to show you what Brian has sent me. Again, another BBC Micro care package, which is greatly appreciated. There's all these people feeling very sorry for me at the moment. But as I said to Brian, I chatted to him on Night Owl yesterday. I said very, very appreciative of sending me the what he has done. And I'll share that with you, and we'll do a little BBC Micro experiment in the second hour, which will be coming up in about 10 minutes' time. In the meantime, I'm going to leave you back with pages from Night Owl. So give us 10 minutes. So hopefully by about 20 past the hour, we should be back ready for the next bit. I'll see you very, very shortly. And a very warm welcome back. You're with 8 Till Late live on youtube.com/Wi-Fi Sheep with me, Tom. Thanks so much for your patience in hanging on there while we just had a break. I realised that I had the last tea bag before to make my cup of tea before we actually came on air, so I couldn't make a cup of tea, so disaster. Never mind, I'm here, we're back. Also, I was getting a little bit, not that you need to know this information, but getting a little bit congested as I had a cold last week, and I was doing all right, but I was like, yeah, I just need 5 minutes. So anyway, right, we're back. And on the desk, we've done a bit of a reset, and I haven't reset the camera though, so just bear with me. Again, this is terrible practice to do this, but there we go. Right. So on the table, we've got the one of the two BBC Master 128 8-bit 6502 based 8-bit machines. This one, I take the lid off, show the insides. Has the ROM, the multi-ROM EEPROM, which was kindly donated by Richard Webb. Don't know if Richard is actually on the stream tonight. Again, this is what when I'm talking about care packages for BBC Micros. So we've got a lithium battery here, which is keeping the CMOS, because these things have battery backup CMOS. And if they don't have it, they generally don't like to work. So that's in. The card is the Video NUL A card, which I covered from Rob Coleman a couple of years ago. This does have a Raspberry Pi Co-Pro fitted underneath. If it's still working is anyone's guess. And it also has an original Ethernet module, Acorn Ethernet module network card. And this is the card that's needed for this machine to play with the Ethernet LAN party happening at the museum, the National Museum of Computing. This is why I'm getting these machines ready, and that will be, if I find the right thing, there we go. That'll be on Saturday the 7th and Sunday the 8th of June at the National Museum of Computing, Bletchley Park, Milton Keynes, UK. Tickets for that are on sale right now. It's about £36 for the weekend, and I'm going to be there both days with my machine, or definitely with this machine and hopefully 2 others. So, yeah. But so the thing, so that was one thing I was sent from Richard, and then I've just lost it. Here we are. And then Brian Martin, who runs the Night Owl BBS that you saw those slides from while we were having the break, sent me this. And in here is it was brand new. I've opened it. Is a RS-232. BBC Micro to USB serial cable, and this is the kind of thing you need to get your BBC Micro online, and also for it to look at BBSs or maybe even host a BBSs, which is how Night Owl works. This apparently is the new unused stock spare from Brian and Night Owl. So this was Night Owl's backup spare, which Brian has very kindly sent to me. So I do hope, if you're still in the chat, Brian, I do hope you've got a spare, because the other night Night Owl didn't appear to be online. And I was like, oh God, has it gone down? And I've got the only spare. So I greatly appreciated. Excuse me. But yeah, so that was a bit of a moment. So basically how this works, it's a straight pass through from the DIN type connector, and it uses, basically it's one of the CH340 serial to USB interface chips. It's the same chip that's used on the clone Arduinos. So underneath here you'll actually see it's the same. There it is. It's the same IC that's used. So we're very common with this protocol. If you don't have the current Arduino IDE running, then you will need to download the drivers separately for CH340. If you have the Arduino IDE, the current version, it should install those onto your system. Anyway, so this goes into the, I think it's RS423 socket, which is on the back of the machine. This will also work on a BBC Micro Model B as well. So that's RGB with this one here, and the connector needs to go with, I think they said that, if I got this right, it needs, there's a little notch. I can show you that. There's a little notch there, see it? An arrow. That has to point towards the, I think they said towards the UHF plug, which is here. So it needs to go, I think it's that way. It is possible to put this in the wrong way around. Apparently it doesn't do any damage, but yeah. So that goes in like that. So that's then to the board. And then we need a, if I've got one here, just bear with me. We need a mini, is it mini? Yes, mini USB to straight USB. Oh, no, tell a lie, that's the wrong one. I've got one, yes. There we are, that's mini. That was micro, this is mini. So, wrong side. So, that goes in there, yeah. And then this plugs into, again, using the streaming PC is probably a bad idea, but we'll do it anyway. So that's going to go into the streaming PC, he says. So this is probably going to go horribly wrong. First of all, let's just see if the BBC Micro is working. So I've got it connected just via composite via the BNC socket, and that's going to an adapter. So you should, now if I go back to Vision Capture, there we go. So that's the adapter box. If I now turn the machine on, he says, have I actually plugged it in? If I now turn the machine on, excellent, there we go. So that's a PAL video, analog video signal out via composite. So, and that will only be black and white on this machine, but that's good enough for what we need. Okay, so that's that side set up and running. Now, on this side, we need to just, where am I going? Too many options. So just bear with me. So, sorry, it's a bit trippy. So just hide those a minute. So I've got TerraTerm. You can use putty. I have putty underneath. This is TerraTerm. And I want to set TerraTerm up as serial. And it should see, in this case, COM port 4, USB serial CH340 COM port. So we'll say OK on that. OK. So that's, apologies, that's a bit small, but that's now COM port 4 on the PC TerraTerm, which is now waiting for the BBC Micro. OK. So, and again, apologies for the slight trippy nature of this. If I can just set that up to, no, yeah, let's not, let's just go back to there. There we go. Okay, right, so that's sorted. So if we now go back to the BBC Micro and we need to set up a series of commands. So I've got it here in the web browser window. Which means, unfortunately, I need to, there we go. Okay, so basically it's a series of what are called star commands, and these are FX star commands. This website actually gives you the FX calls for the BBC Micro, which I did have to look up, admittedly. So it should be possible. Here we are. So we first of all need to set up FX3, and we need to, so this will set up the serial to output. So we can set it up to output to the screen, which is basically the inbuilt terminal, and also out via RS423. So it's this one here, yes, yes. So we'll say yes to that, and that's FX star, or yeah, asterisk or star, FX35. Okay, so if we now go back to here, and on the BBC Micro, we now go star FX3, 5. That might, or should have done, open the port. not quite yet. So that's opened the port anyway. So now what we need to do is, I did have this working the other day. I'm trying to remember what I did. So that's that. So we then need to do is that's FX. It's FX2, get characters from keyboard and enables. Hang on, I've missed a step here, people. I think it's FX2-2 as well, which I need. FX2-2, just type that in as well. And I think there's 7 as well, if I'm right. 7, yes, here we are. So then we need to call FX, you see him here, so it's 7, and we're going to set up baud rate of 9600, which is the standard that we use. That's 7-7, and transmission rate again, so that's FX8-7. Okay, now then let's go back to capture. So you see I've just put these statements in. And then we need to, let's just call back FX 353. I'm not getting anything on TerraTerm. I did have this working. I've done something. I've not done the right something. I did have this working. Let's just reload TerraTerm, see if it will accept serial comms now. Yes, always messes up when I'm live, doesn't it? Oh dear. Okay, this worked perfectly, right? I've not done something. I know I've not done something, but I kid you not, this worked absolutely perfectly. Right up until the point that I want to show it off or talk to you about it. And the minute I do that, it all goes horribly wrong. And now doesn't work properly. Damn it. Right, what haven't we done? We've not done something here. I've not done the right order. I need to think about this. Right, let's just turn the machine off. Let's turn it back on again. Now I'm not seeing a video signal. Thank you. Right. Okay. Yeah, right. I think it's because we've still got the basically, you might remember a couple of weeks ago we were trying to get the I had a data center, and I've got these 2 data center ROMs, which, yeah, actually, do you know what? I think we might just take these out of circuit. So I've got these 2 jumpers here, which I might be able to just get to. I need a pair of pliers for that. Just take these 2 data center ROMs out of. This was all working perfect. It was definitely this machine I was testing it with as well. I'm sure it was. Just take these out a minute. Right, they should be able to circuit. So now if I turn back on, he says, and if I go break, okay. Gone. Something has gone very, very screwy, unfortunately. Okay, right. Nope, let's not doing that. Right, let's just try this one more time then. Let's see what happens. So, let's open the comport before we set anything else up. So, FX 7 7 FX 8 7. So that sets 9600 baud. That's our bar transmission rate. I feel like I'm missing something. FX so 5 2. So we'll set RS423 output. And then we'll go FX 3 5. And we're still not getting anything. Let's just try FX2-2. Nope, that's not working either. Saying that, it's now not actually seeing the I've just noticed here on the PC it's not actually seeing the communications terminal. So let's close TerraTerm again. Appreciate you can't see this at the minute, just bear with me. Oh, this is really frustrating because I assured you I actually had this working, so oh dear. Right, I seem to have lost. Have I lost all my viewers tonight? Is anyone still there? Because the studio is saying I've lost everybody, which is very frustrating. So yeah, okay, that's not working that well. I can't. Have I lost everyone? Oh, hello, Brian. Sorry, I didn't see you there in the chat. So we're still here. Okay. Sorry, just my dashboard saying everyone's gone. I'm like, it wasn't that bad. FX20. That's fine. I don't expect people to pay attention, George. That's all right. You carry on by all means. I'm just going to struggle on in the background. I had this working, which is what's really frustrating about this. Okay. I'm not doing something, and I know I'm not doing it. It's not talking. Why is it not talking? Have I got? Do you know what? Could this be as stupid as not having the cable in the right way around? Oh, for God's sake, I had the cable in the wrong way around. Right, fine. Okay. That's embarrassing. Right, I had the cable in the wrong way around, everybody. Sorry about that. Should be 9 o'clock. Yeah, I had it in at 3 o'clock. That was the problem. Right, it works now. Oh my god. Right. So, okay. So TerraTerm is now receiving the output from the BBC Micro. And I can, for example, give statements, and it mostly works. Doesn't like mouse for some reason at the bottom there. But, it now mostly seems to work okay. So basically this now is the beginnings of serial protocols between the BBC Micro and the PC. The two are actually now linked together, and you could even, for example, I can type here. I don't know if I'm set up to. I'm not set up to type from this side and back in yet, but basically anything I do want. So you could, for example, if we go, so CLS will clear the screen on the Beeb. It won't clear the screen on the on TerraTerm, but it has cleared the screen on the Beam. Same with modes. So modes will obviously work on the BBC Micro for changing the graphics modes. They absolutely won't do anything. So mode 7 in TerraTerm, but we could, for example, type a program in. So 10 print high 20 go to 10. And if I run that program, obviously it will run as you'd expect, and I can escape the program as you'd expect. And if we go back over to the video, you can see here it is out of the video display on the BBC Micro. So this is basically the beginnings, and this is again huge thanks to Brian here for sending me this cable. I'm just incompetent this evening. This is the beginnings of being able to get this machine to be able to look up BBSs. Now the next thing to do will be to incorporate, and have it just off screen here, a Raspberry Pi 3. So you don't have to use a Pi 3, because I've got lots of Pi 3s available, and there's projects out there. One, to use Pi 3s as BBS hosts, but also to use them as bridge modems. So instead of connecting straight into the PC as I have done, we'd connect into the USB. Let's just open this up. So we connect into the USB on this Pi 3, and we'd run a Linux build with some custom software, some modem bridge software. This would then connect to the standard internet, broadband internet, but it would be able to pass through serial data to the BBC Micro, hence allowing us to not only access BBSs like Night Owl through this hardware. Remember, Night Owl is actually hosted on the BBC Micro itself and then passes through via serial link to modern internet for us to then pick it up through modern internet at the other end. But also we should be able to maybe even look up some websites. So that's the next plan with this project, is to get BBSing from my BBC Micro, not through dial-up modem, but through an emulated modem solution using an older Raspberry Pi. So I've got plenty of these Pi 3s available, and then go through to actually being able to connect and then do things like BBSing, which would be nice to be able to look at Night Owl straight from the original machine. So that little hurdle tonight, which is, I've got to admit, is as far as I've got, but it's a starting point of actually getting a serial comm link between the BBC Micro and the outside world, which actually, you know what, I know it's quite simple, but it's quite cool. So once again, I want to say a huge thank you to Brian for sending me that cable. Did you ever get a spare? I don't know what no means. I see you said no earlier on, Brian. Do you mean no, you haven't got a spare yet, or what? I'm just conscious I've got your only spare. So. I'll give him a minute, see if he wants to get back to me. Oh yeah, we'll be getting one. It's not a problem. Okay, well, if you're sure it's not a problem, because I was very worried when Night Owl wasn't online earlier on. I was like, it was the other week, I think it was, but I think you'd shut down early or something. And yeah, do we know what's happening with the what's it called? I've forgotten. Hang on. Do we know what's happening with the BD View website yet? Because I know that had stopped working, which I preferred that for a web client over the Fish CCL4. Oh, excuse me. So assuming Night Owl's running as we speak over on Fish. So if you want to just access it, it's fishccl4.org/JS Night Owl or slash JS dash Night Owl. And up top there, as I said at the beginning of the live stream, is the ddns.net address on port 6400. That's what I'm hoping to tap with this modem configuration at some point. Again, it's on my to-do list of projects. Should also probably quickly mention, and hello for everyone who might be watching this for the first time, we had a huge response, I should say, to my video on the Mac, the Mini Mac system, using the Raspberry Pi Pico 2040. Now, I know I showed you quite a bit of this. We did some of this on the channel on the live stream here, and then I went and did the video. But obviously, you've seen the SD card version of that Mac software running, which hasn't been seen on the video yet. But we had a huge response to that. So again, people just like those sort of cheap, simple, soldered together projects. So I want to do a bit more on that. But I've got to prioritise, because of what's happening with me, and the fact that I've got to prioritise basically with the house move, and the fact that if it all goes through, because bear in mind it's not a given, but if it goes through, we're going to be moving, and all this has to be dismantled and packed up, and I've got to build a new studio space. So that's obviously a lot of disruption. So there will be a point in time that I will need to stop these live streams. I mean, normally stopped over the summer anyway, and then we sort of come back in the winter months again. Because based on a nice summer evenings, no one wants to be sitting listening to me. I'm just hearing the chat. So what's Brian saying? So Simon bought it down online. Online harms bill caused him to bring it down. Don't know why he thinks it's not compliant. Okay. Right. Ofcom. Yeah, I'm okay. All right. Okay. Yeah. But it's just a porthole, isn't it? For other content. So there'd be more of an issue. You could argue there'd be more of an issue with the I don't understand that, because you would argue then that the online harm, this is basically a UK. So for those of you who don't know, Ofcom is the British version of the FCC. Does the same job. It's a media regulator. It has a bit of a wider scope than the FCC, but it regulates television broadcasts, telephone services, and it also does things like it's online and media regulator as well. So it's a little bit more wide-reaching than the FCC, but basically it does a very similar job. I don't understand. So the other site we're talking about, this VD View, unless there's something else there that I'm missing, it's just the portal. And so it's just regurgitating content for things hosted on Night Owl. So under the Online Harms Bill or Act, or is it a bill or an act? I don't know yet. Basically, the content of Night Owl would be more dubious than the portal. I don't understand that. But of course, if websites and portals are looked after properly and maintained, and there shouldn't be anything on Night Owl, for example, and it would be deemed, you know, harmful. I mean, it's a BBS, for God's sake. No, I don't understand that. Unless I'm missing something, I do not understand that at all. That's just a bit strange, really. The Online Harms Act was more about unregulated social media. So that's your Facebooks and your X's and things. It's nothing to do with private, non-for-profit websites, really, unless they're hosting graphic content that basically breaches the laws of this country, or, you know, could be seen as harmful to minors. I mean, that's, yeah, I don't get that at all. Oh well, never mind. Well, at least fish.ccl4 is still running. So I'm just reading in the chat. So Brian said it's just he's had to jump through some hoops to comply. Is that to do with the Azure websites.net? Is it something to do internally with them, maybe? That might be what it might be. Possibly. It might be something to do with his service provider then. That might be it, actually. Oh well. Okay, never mind. I've certainly not heard anything from my service provider. Yeah. That's an odd one. Okay, well, we'll hopefully then we'll leave it at that. We'll say hopefully that'll get sorted out. But in the meantime, there's other ways of accessing Night Owl BBS. So do go and have a look at that. Check it out. There's a fair bit on there now, and so Brian, you know, does amazing work keeping that maintained. And I said it runs all off. It's off your BBC Master at the moment, your 128 that's running that, or is it your? I know you've got a Model B and a Master. Which one is it that's currently hosting it, Brian? He'll get back to me in a minute. There's a delay on the line. Master 128's running it. Okay, so it's the same. Basically, it's the same as one of these machines. So yeah, so I basically have got to get my machine back up into a working situation. So I've got this little switch here for changing the OSs from the multi-ROM. Backup batteries in this is working. The other one is working now as well. So I've got two BBC Master 128s up and running. Other than that, I'll just show you this. That's now bothering me. And we can't control... What on earth? It's to do with the... I'll just take this out again. The speaker's not attached, which is why it's not making any noise. But it's these two ROMs, I think, are upsetting it. Let's just turn that off. Just turn the switch one, because I need to plug that in properly. And it should... There's a cutout here in the back of the machine. And it should sort of sit kind of like that in the back of the machine, which I just haven't done that yet. Just turn this back on. Yeah, basically, excuse me, basically it's not seeing me, oh, that's the original, that's yeah, that's the original BBC Micro, that's from the Model B, that's too far the other way. How about that one? There's like 4 modes on this switch, so... Yeah, there's something a bit screwy on this, and I think it might be these additional ROMs. So I'm just wondering if it might be worth... I've got a screwdriver handy. Flathead, let's just take these, make sure the machine's off. Just very carefully take these ROMs out. Oh, that is a bit crunchy. Yeah. They're not needed basically for the I just was trying to see if I get the hard drive system up and running, which I've not quite managed yet, unfortunately. Again, it's just something else. It's time and effort to get stuff sorted, which I haven't managed to do yet. Right, they're out. Let's power this back up. I'm surprised they're still having trouble though, because they should have been out of yeah. Wasn't the ROMs. It's not happy. It's not happy about something. You know what? I might just put these back. Because you shouldn't just go changing things for the sake of it. But yeah, no, what I must do, and probably should prioritise next week, is getting these machines in their sort of final state, if you like, ready for going out in June. Because time is ticking, and the problem is, as I said before, I don't have a lot of time to actually do what I want to do. What on earth is going on? Just take that out a minute. Okay. See, that one seems a little bit happier. But I seem to be missing the entire top end of my ROMs. What's my config set? Oops. What's config on these? I can't remember what's short for config on these. It's .co. Isn't it? Oh, it's status, isn't it? ST. Okay. Right. So I'm interested that my tube interface isn't showing up either. So it should be. There's the recipe is in the bottom of the machine. Wrong one. And let's just have a quick. Being very careful here. So the pi. I don't know if you can see that. There's a pi 0 just hiding underneath the unit in the underside of the machine. So, interesting. Yeah. Okay. So I might have to try and get this. Basically, this machine needs to operate well, basically, because it's going to be going to Bletchley Park on June. So I'll just find my show dates again for you. So there we go. So again, Saturday the 7th of June, Sunday the 8th of June, 2025. National Museum of Computing, Bletchley Park, Milton Keynes. So this needs to join the Partly Connect network. So it needs to be behaving itself and working without giving me JIP. And at the moment it's giving me JIP. So I need to sort that out. And then obviously I need to be doing some BBSing and networking stuff, which again, thanks to Brian for sending me the adapter for that. So, right, I think at the time, just approached, which just gone 1 o'clock, just gone 10 o'clock. It's actually 1 minute past 10 here in the UK, British Summer Time, GMT +1. I think we'll call it a night right there. Managed to do a full 2 hours. So yay, go us. Well done. And well done for those of you that have stuck around to the end. Hope you've enjoyed the live stream, as chaotic as normal. We'll do this all again at the same time next week, all things being well, from 1900 hours GMT or 2000 hours 8 o'clock BST GMT +1, right here on youtube.com/Wi-Fi sheep. If you haven't done so already, please do consider liking and subscribing. Thanks once again for your company, and I'll see you real soon. Until then, wherever you are in the world, have a very good evening. From me, Tom Williamson, here at Wi-Fi Sheep in Shropshire, England, wishing you a very peaceful night. Good night.